Let me be direct with you right now, and I need you to hear every single word I'm about to say, because what I'm going to tell you in the next 25 minutes is either going to be the financial turning point of your life, or you're going to ignore it. Go back to your one bank account and wonder 5 years from now why you're still broke, still stressed, and still checking your balance at midnight with your stomach in knots. You opened your banking app last week, didn't you? Maybe it was a Tuesday night, maybe it was a Sunday morning, but you opened it expecting one number and you found a completely different one, a much smaller one. And you sat there scrolling through transactions trying to figure out what happened. $12 for lunch, $18 for takeout, $7 for coffee, $25 on Amazon for something you can barely remember buying. And the terrifying part is that none of it was crazy spending. There was no vacation, no luxury purchase, no massive splurge, just normal, everyday decisions that collectively drained your account like a slow leak in a boat you didn't know was sinking. That moment of confusion, that moment of, wait, where did it all go? That is not bad luck. That is the consequence of a broken system. And today I'm going to give you the system that fixes it permanently. Right now, before we go any further, if you are serious about actually fixing your finances, not just watching videos about fixing your finances, but genuinely building wealth and stopping the bleeding, you need to subscribe to this channel immediately. The financial advice I give away for free here is the kind of advice people pay consultants and financial advisors thousands of dollars per hour to receive, and you're getting it at zero cost. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell right now, because the people who act immediately are exactly the kind of people who will actually implement what I'm about to teach you. And that is the entire difference between people who build wealth and people who just watch videos about it. Let me indict you right now, because here is the cold, hard, uncomfortable truth that nobody else is going to say to your face. You are not broke because of the economy. You are not broke because your salary isn't high enough, and you are absolutely not broke because life is unfair. You are broke because you have been operating with the financial infrastructure of a teenager, and you have been doing it for years while telling yourself you just need a little more discipline. I'm going to dismantle that excuse right now, and I want you to pay attention because this matters. Most people, the overwhelming majority of the adults walking around right now calling themselves financially responsible, are running every single dollar of their financial life through one bank account. And that one decision, that one structural failure, is the root cause of almost every spending problem they have. Your paycheck lands, your rent comes out, your groceries come out, your subscriptions come out, your random purchases come out, and everything flows through the same digital pool of money, like one giant, undifferentiated a pile of cash that your brain cannot process accurately. Here's the psychological catastrophe that creates: you check your balance and you see $2,000. Your brain, operating on instinct and not on spreadsheets, registers $2,000 as wealth. It feels like you have room to spend. It feels like a dinner out is fine, like a new pair of shoes is manageable, like the Amazon impulse buy at 11 at night is no big deal. But here is what your brain is not calculating in that moment. Rent is $1,200, utilities are $200, groceries are $300, transportation is $150, and that's already $1,850 of committed money, which means your actual discretionary spending money is $150, not $2,150. And yet your brain, staring at that $2,000 balance, told you that you had room to breathe, room to spend, room to live a little. That is not a discipline problem. That is an information architecture problem, and it is destroying your financial life one invisible transaction at a time. Richard Thaler, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics for his research in behavioral economics, documented exactly this failure in human psychology. He called it the problem of mental accounting. And what he found is that people are genuinely neurologically terrible at mentally separating pools of money. When money sits in one account, your brain treats it as one unified resource, And it applies something called fungibility thinking, meaning every dollar feels interchangeable and equally available regardless of what it's actually committed to. This is not a character flaw. This is how human cognition works. But here's what separates people who build wealth from people who don't. Wealthy people design systems that compensate for these cognitive limitations. They don't rely on their brain to do math. It was never designed to do. They build structures that make the right decision, the automatic decision, and they stop treating financial success like a willpower contest that they just need to try harder at. Now I want to do something that's going to be uncomfortable because I want to run the actual numbers on what your unconscious spending is costing you. Not just this month, not just this year, but over the span of your actual financial life. Because when you see these numbers written out in full, you cannot unsee them. And that is exactly the point. The United States Bureau of Labor Statistics published data showing that the average American household spends over $3,400 per year on dining out alone. $3,400. Let's break that down so your brain can actually process it, because the annual number feels abstract. That is $283 per month. That is $65 per week. That is $9.30 every single day, including the days you didn't even leave your house. And most people, when confronted with that number, genuinely do not believe it applies to them. And then if you actually pull their bank statements and go line by line, they find out it absolutely is them, because the spending is distributed across dozens of small transactions that individually feel trivial and collectively feels catastrophic. But the dining number is only the beginning of the autopsy, because here's what that $3,400 per year actually represents. When you understand compound growth, if instead of spending that money on restaurant meals, you invested it at a conservative 7% annual return, which is below the historical average return of the S&P 500. Over 10 years, that is approximately $47,000. Over 20 years, it is over $131,000. Over 30 years, it is over $320,000. You are not spending $3,400 a year on dining out. You are spending $320,000 of your retirement money on food that you have already digested and forgotten. And that is just one category that doesn't include the impulse Amazon purchases, the streaming subscriptions you forgot about, the coffee runs, the random weekend shopping, the entertainment spending, all of it flowing through that single account where your brain cannot distinguish between committed money and not available money. Here is the mathematical reality of the average person's financial life. If you earn $50,000 per year and you spend 90% of your take-home pay, which millions of people do, you are saving approximately $400 to $500 per month. At that savings rate, you will accumulate approximately $240,000 over 20 years before inflation, assuming you invest it well and never touch it. But if you simply fixed your spending system and redirected even an additional $300 per month into investments, you would accumulate over $500,000 over that same 20-year period. The gap between financial struggle and financial security is not a salary gap. For most people, it is a system gap, and the system gap is costing you $250,000 in lifetime wealth. I need you to sit with that number because it is real, and it is the actual price of continuing to manage your money the way you are managing it right now. Now, I want to talk about something that most financial influencers won't say out loud because they don't want to upset anybody, and I have no such concern. The overspending epidemic is not entirely your fault in one specific way, and I want to be precise about what I mean because I am not giving you permission to stop taking responsibility. What I am telling you is this. Every major corporation that wants your money has spent billions of dollars on engineering systems specifically designed to extract it from you as effortlessly and as unconsciously as possible. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a documented business strategy. And if you don't understand the war you're in, you cannot fight it effectively. Amazon didn't invent one-click purchasing by accident. They patented it because they discovered, through millions of data points, that adding even one additional step to the checkout process, one single extra click, caused measurable drops in purchase completion. They literally went to court to protect their right to remove friction from the spending process, because friction is the enemy of their revenue and the ally of your bank account. Apple Pay, Google Pay, Tap to Pay, contactless cards, all of them are engineered to make the physical and psychological experience of spending money as close to zero effort as possible, because the finance and retail industries know exactly what behavioral economists know, that effort is a natural brake on spending. And if you remove the brake, people spend more. Auto-renewal subscriptions are built on the same principle. The software companies know that most people will not actively cancel a subscription they no longer use, because cancellation requires effort and intention, and spending requires neither. Your grocery store is laid out the way it is to maximize your spending. The high-margin items are at eye level. Essential items, milk, bread, eggs, are at the back of the store, so you walk through the entire building and see everything else first. The end caps are leased out to companies willing to pay premium placement fees. The checkout line is lined with impulse purchases positioned precisely where you have nothing to do but stand there and look at them. Every single environmental cue in that store is engineered to increase your transaction total. And most people walk in thinking they have free will and walk out having spent $40 more than they planned. This is not a weakness. This is physics. This is stimulus response psychology being used against you by people with billion-dollar research budgets. And the solution is not to try harder. The solution is to build a counter system that is just as intentional, just as structured, and just as automatic as the systems that are extracting money from you every single day. Here's the system, and I'm going to give it to you with zero softening and zero unnecessary complexity, because the best financial systems are brutally simple, and anyone who makes this complicated is trying to sell you something. I call it the two-account system. And it works not because it requires discipline, but because it eliminates the need for discipline by making the right decision the only available decision. That is the entire principle. You are not going to white-knuckle your way to financial success. You are going to engineer an environment where financial success is the path of least resistance. Account number one is your bills account. And this account has one job and one job only: pay your fixed monthly expenses. Your rent or mortgage goes from here. Your utilities go from here. Your insurance premiums go from here. Your phone bill goes from here. Your internet bill goes from here. Every subscription, every recurring charge, every predictable fixed expense in your financial life goes from this account and only from this account. When your paycheck arrives, the exact dollar amount required to cover all of these fixed expenses is transferred automatically, immediately, and without your conscious involvement into this account. And then critically, you remove the debit card access from this account. You do not use this account for spending. You do not carry this card in your wallet. This account is a financial utility, not a spending tool. And treating it as anything else defeats the entire purpose. Account number two is your spending account. And this is where the psychological transformation happens. Everything that is discretionary, everything that is variable, everything that is your actual day-to-day life, groceries, dining, entertainment, clothing, coffee, personal care, all of it comes from this account and only from this account. And because the bill's money is already gone, already separated, already sitting in its dedicated account, waiting to do its one job, what remains in your spending account is the real number. It is the truth. It is the actual, accurate, no math required picture of what you have available to live on. Let me run the numbers. So this is completely concrete. You earn $3,000 per month take home. Your fixed expenses look like this: rent, $1,200, utilities, $200, insurance, $150, phone and internet, $100, subscriptions, $50, which totals $1,700 of fixed committed money. That amount transfers automatically to the bills account on payday. You never see it in your spending account. It is gone. Now you have $1,300 remaining. And from that, you allocate $600 to your spending account for groceries and discretionary expenses, $400 to a savings account, and $300 to an investment account. Your spending account now displays $600, not $3,000, not $1,300, $600. And when your brain looks at $600, it does not feel rich. It does not feel like there's room to be careless. It accurately represents your reality. And your behavior automatically aligns with that reality without you having to do any mental math, exercise any willpower, or track a single transaction. This works because of a principle from environmental psychology called choice architecture. Your environment, the information you see, the options available to you, the friction or ease of different decisions shapes your behavior more powerfully than your intentions do. James Clear documented this extensively in his work on habit formation. He described it as making the right behavior the easy behavior and the wrong behavior the hard behavior. The two-account system does exactly that with money. Spending your bills money becomes hard because it's in a separate account you don't actively use. Spending within your discretionary budget becomes easy because the number in front of you is already your limit. You are not fighting yourself. You are working with yourself. And that is the difference between a system that lasts and a resolution that fails by February. Now let me walk you through the implementation step by step with no tolerance for excuses because I've heard every single one of them and none of them hold up. Step 1. Open a second checking account. Every major bank and most credit unions allow you to open additional checking accounts, often at zero cost and in under 10 minutes, online. If your current bank charges fees for additional accounts or makes this unnecessarily difficult, that is useful information about whether your bank is working for you or against you. And this might be the moment to reconsider that relationship. Online banks like Ally, Marcus, or Discover offer free checking and savings accounts with no minimum balances and user-friendly interfaces that make the two-account setup straightforward. Step 2, rename your accounts clearly and permanently. Do not name them something vague. Name one account bills and name the other account spending. The psychological effect of seeing a clear label every time you open your banking app is not trivial. It creates a cognitive cue that reinforces the purpose of each account every single time you look at it. And cognitive cues are powerful behavioral tools that cost you nothing. Step 3, sit down for 20 minutes, pull up the last 3 months of your bank statements, and list every fixed recurring expense you have, every single one. Rent, utilities, insurance, phone, internet, gym membership, streaming services, everything that hits your account on a predictable schedule. Add them up, get the total, and that is your bills account number. That is the amount that gets transferred there on every payday automatically before you touch anything else. Step 4, set up automatic transfers. On the day your paycheck arrives, your bank automatically sends the bill amount to the bills account. This is not optional, and it is not something you do manually each month because manual systems fail. Automation is the entire point. If you have to remember to do it, you will eventually forget, or you will convince yourself that this month is an exception. And exceptions are where systems go to die. Now I want to address the objections head on, because I already know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Mark, I already sort of tracked this in my head. No, you don't. If you tracked it effectively in your head, you would not be watching a video called "The System That Makes Overspending Impossible," because you would not have an overspending problem. Mental tracking is what you have been doing, and mental tracking is why you're here. You're thinking, but what if a big expense comes up and I need money from the bills account? That is what an emergency fund is for, which is why 3 to 6 months of expenses in a dedicated savings account is not optional advice. It is financial infrastructure, and it belongs in a third account entirely separate from both of these. You're thinking, this seems complicated. It is 10 minutes of setup for a lifetime of clarity. If 10 minutes of effort is too much to ask for in exchange for never having that midnight bank account panic moment again, then I cannot help you. And more importantly, you cannot help yourself. The broader principle at work here is one that applies to every area of performance, financial or otherwise, and it is this: willpower is a depletable resource. Research from social psychologist Roy Baumeister and his colleagues established that the capacity for self-control, for resisting temptation and making deliberate choices diminishes throughout the day as it is exercised. Every decision you make depletes a finite pool of decision-making energy. This means that by the time you get to evening, which is precisely when online shopping is most common and when impulse purchases peak, your willpower is at its lowest point. Relying on willpower to manage your finances is like building a house on sand. Systems do not deplete, systems do not have bad days, systems do not get tired or emotional or convinced that one small exception is fine. Systems just work. And that is exactly why the people who build real, lasting wealth build systems instead of trying to be more disciplined than their own psychology. So here is where we end. And I'm going to be completely direct with you one final time because you deserve a direct answer to a direct question. Are you going to do this today? Or are you going to watch this video, feel motivated for approximately 4 hours, and then go back to your single bank account and your financial confusion? Because those are genuinely the only two options in front of you right now. There is no middle path. There is no I'll think about it. Thinking about it without acting on it is the same as not doing it. And if you don't do it today, the probability that you do it at all drops dramatically with every hour that passes. Here's your challenge, and I want you to take it seriously. Before you go to sleep tonight, open your banking app, navigate to the account opening section, and open that second checking account. Rename your accounts. Write down your fixed expenses. Set up the automatic transfer. All 4 steps tonight before you sleep. That is it. That is the entire ask. 10 minutes of action in exchange for a fundamentally different relationship with your money. The people who do this will look back in 6 months and be genuinely shocked at how much their financial stress has decreased, how much clarity they have, and how much money they have stopped losing to unconscious, untracked, unintentional spending. If this was the video that finally made it click for you, hit the like button and leave a comment below telling me you set up the second account tonight. I read the comments. I want to know. Subscribe if you want to keep building because we are just getting started.